We're the travel agents coming to you with tips, tricks, interviews, and voyages by cruise. The travel agents bringing you the latest travel news.
Hey, what's up? I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
We are the travel agents. Today's episode is going to be about Philadelphia. So right off the bat, it's Philly. It's not New York. It's not Chicago.
It's not DC.
It's not even DC. It's Philly. And I've lived 6 hours away from it by car my entire life.
Yeah.
And I had never been.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
No, I've never been. This is my first time.
Why had we never been there? I've been to New York over 10 times. I've been to Chicago over probably a dozen, and I've never been to Philadelphia.
Yeah. I think it has a bad rap.
But it should be the cornerstone of the Americans' pilgrimage, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot from New York and it takes a lot from DC.
Yeah.
I mean,
are we scared of it? Why? I mean, are people on the West Coast, when they fly here, are they coming to Philly or are they just going to New York and DC and Chicago? Well, outside of West Philadelphia, born and raised.
Yeah.
I really didn't have much connection with Philadelphia just besides cheesesteaks.
Cheesesteaks in history for me. I mean,
the Liberty Bell.
Liberty Bell, Ben Franklin.
Don't even know what the Liberty Bell is. Is it Plymouth Rock? No, but it's important.
Yeah.
I will say you and I went there in July of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a blast.
I was so impressed by the city.
And that's saying
great.
A lot, Will,
yeah.
Because we went during the peak of a pandemic.
We did. Yeah, we really
All
did.
factors were stacked against us.
Yeah.
We had good weather.
We did. We went during the summer.
Weather can make or break a trip. It's true.
Yeah.
Although my dad's friend used to always say growing up, there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only such thing as bad dress.
Fair enough. If there's anything Iceland has taught us.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for our Iceland episode because we have a lot to say about packing and dress on that episode for sure.
Oh, yeah. One day.
But Philadelphia, it's your city.
Yeah.
You're going to have your city stress points like, oh, it's tough to find a restroom. That was a little pricier than it should have been. And, ooh, I saw something kind of weird in the streets just now. Also, like, oh, they have a subway. Should we try to use it? Because Will and I are from a city, Akron, Ohio, not subway conducive. There's no subways.
None.
30 minutes north, we have Cleveland, which has an above ground train, which at parts, like around the Tower City, is underground, but very seldom.
Never been
mostly above. Yeah, exactly. Why would we? We have cars. We just drive in Northeast
not New
Ohio. Yeah, so just those. You're going to find those typical city stress points.
I mean, yeah, Philadelphia was great. To kind of help explain like our experience and talk about our experience, we have some defining words. Do we want to get into defining words?
I love it. And I hope that these defining words, it's kind of like that bird's eye view. Hey, you just came back from Philadelphia. How was your trip? Because you're always going to have friends and family who ask you that.
Yeah.
And you're always kind of struggling for, okay, what little nugget can I give you? Because I know you don't want to look through a whole picture album, and I know you don't want to hear me talk for more than 2 minutes. So if I could just give you some big bird's eye view defining words, I think that would be helpful for what the city was about. So,
perfect. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Here's 3 words to help you. Here's our defining words.
So, Ryan, you want to kick it off?
I think we have 3 total. And number 1 is river culture.
Ooh, absolutely.
A city with rivers, and they were cool.
Yeah, so Philadelphia is situated, the city center at least, is situated between 2 rivers, the Delaware River and the Schuylkill River.
I'm so proud of you for your pronunciation of that, Will.
Well, hey, I'm going based off of how a local Philadelphian said it, so I hope it's correct. Let me know if it's incorrect in the comments.
Look at you assimilating to the local Philadelphia culture.
Hey, I try my best.
Verbiage and all.
Hey, try my best.
So proud of you.
I mean, one of the cool things about the river culture for me was it's something that we just don't experience here in Akron or in Cleveland. I mean, we have Lake Erie, but I mean, there's not a lot going on Lake Erie, but in Philadelphia with the two rivers, they're different from one another. I mean, the Schuylkill, it's located next to the Ben Franklin Parkway, which is modeled after the Champs-Élysées in Paris, which is cool. It looks gorgeous. You got the Philadelphia Museum of Art there. You got the Rodin Museum, a whole slew of different art museums there. And so it's a little bit more high end. It's right next to University City. So there's some college culture going on the other side of the river. And then on the Delaware, I mean, a little bit more famous, right? George Washington crossing it, the famous painting. You have the old city of Philadelphia, where you have a lot more historical landmarks, like the first White House. If you didn't know, Philadelphia was the first capital of the United States before D.C., where the only president to reside there was George Washington. He stayed there. And it's also the location of Independence Hall, which houses the Liberty Bell. The Declaration of Independence was written there. Continental Congress was founded there. You got Ben Franklin's house, Betsy Ross, the creator of the American flag.
Oh,
She's there.
I think we were both so shocked by just how much Philadelphia had to offer. Why was it, Will, that in me being an extreme extrovert, I'm definitely going to gravitate to anywhere that there's people, there's action, there's lights, there's life, there's entertainment, there's street performers. And I just felt drawn to these two rivers, both the Delaware and the... Go ahead.
Schuylkill.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just felt so drawn to them. And I think that's saying a lot. I think someone listening could say, well, you two went in the middle of a pandemic and all the museums were closed. And we need to just address that elephant in the room. When you go to Philadelphia, you're going to go for the museums. We will talk about museums in a minute, so we'll table that for a sec. But we couldn't see any of them.
No, we really couldn't. We couldn't go into any
and so
of them.
we were a little trapped in that. Yeah, we didn't have a lot to do museum wise. Okay, nothing to do museum wise. So we did have extra time but I was just, I guess what I'm driving at is, even if the museums were open, if I were to go back and all the museums were open, I would still say to whomever I went with, hey, let's go hang out by the river. There's so much going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool restaurants there that are located on some of the piers. You got some pop-up beer gardens that were going on there while we were there in the summer. But during COVID, I think that was really a really smart thing by some of the businesses to do some pop-up beer gardens, help keep the economy flowing while the city was on a downturn.
It's true. While we were there, we were required, if you were going to eat, you had to eat outside.
Yeah, you had to eat outside, and you could only stay at the location for 90 minutes.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it was crazy, man.
Were they strict with that, though? We might have done a couple 100-minute stays.
Yeah, I think we stayed at one place for a little bit over that.
It's like when you're parking in the city, you have to move your car a few inches. I think we moved tables a couple times.
Yeah.
We'll move from the bar to the back of the restaurant just to make it look like we're,
Yeah, but I mean,
undercover cops.
With the Delaware Riverfront, that has more of like a nightlife feel to it. It does have a lot more, restaurants going on. There's one restaurant in particular we really liked that was located on a ship. The restaurant was called Mashulu. Is that right?
Mashulu.
Yeah. So that was really cool. You could have
Huge
dinner on top.
recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely. Highly recommended. It's really cool. It's located off the Delaware Riverfront. You get a cool view of Camden, New Jersey. You're located right on the river.
Are we the first people to ever say, oh, it's a really great view and you're overlooking New Jersey?
Right. Yeah.
But we agreed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So many photos.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool, man. Honestly, like it was a vibe to sit there on a sailboat and have dinner.
The restaurant Mashulu, we'll have to put that in our notes, by the way. It reminded me of being on a pirate ship.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. They also, what was really fun for us the first time we went was some of their alcohol is sold by jug. So they gave us like a gallon of alcoholic iced tea.
It was like, when your mom puts out, she's got like the glass a pitcher of lemonade, and at the bottom there's a little spout. You know, it was like they brought that over. It was full of alcohol.
It was perfect way to start the Philadelphia trip.
It's quite a bit. It was
so yeah, that's a great way to explain the Delaware Riverfront. Lots of different things going on. Even some pop-up like art shops too, by the way. That's really cool.
You had art. You just had people. You had energy, you had liveliness, and I felt very safe. I saw such a diverse crowd in terms of even like I saw families, I saw singles, I saw elderly, I saw married couples. It was a place to be. So river culture was defining word number 1. Are we ready for defining word number 2?
Sure.
Cheesesteaks.
Yeah, let's do cheesesteaks and sort of the food culture, right? Just as a whole.
Yes.
Philadelphia takes a lot of pride in their food culture. And unfortunately for us, we did go during COVID. So a lot of the options were slim, really, because we couldn't go there unless they had outdoor dining.
We had so many good meals.
We did. Yeah.
Will's not going to tell you. He is, in his personal life, he's a phenomenal cook. His wife will even vouch for that. And
Thanks,
I'm going to say when a restaurant, Will has good, tough standard, a healthy, tough level of standards when it comes to food.
It's got to be good, man. If I'm going to pay money, it's got to be good.
He's going to tell you if he wasn't a fan of it. And I appreciate that about Will.
Hey, thanks, man.
Wait, would you ever send food back though?
Oh, no, never. That's the poor. I wouldn't do that to the poor waiter or waitress. I've been in that position.
I did it once.
It
was kind of earth shattering for me, like life changing, really.
I really can't imagine you doing this.
My heart was racing the entire rest of the meal and the whole drive home. I still think about it.
Yeah.
This was over like a year ago. But if you saw those chicken wings in Cleveland, you would have been appalled as well.
Oh, I have no doubt.
Actually, even the waitress said, like, "Oh yeah, you should send those back."
Oh no, that's when you know.
Yeah. But back to Philadelphia.
Yeah, back to Philadelphia
And the food culture. So we ate well.
Yeah, we did. We ate well. I didn't know this until we went. But one of the things outside of cheesesteaks that Philadelphia is known for is water ice, or how they pronounce it, water ice.
Let me try. Water ice.
Hey,
water ice.
Perfect. It's basically a snow cone.
That's all it was, and it wasn't even that good.
If you had a snow cone before, if you go to Philadelphia, they're no different, even though they're called water ice. But hey, I mean, if you like snow cones,
come to Cleveland, do a Cleveland Indians game, get some Italian ice. It's going to be probably better.
Hey, no disrespect to Philadelphia and their water ice. I do love their cheesesteaks, though. The cheesesteaks, we had 2 instances of cheesesteaks, and we are going to touch more on the one instance, but
in our next segment.
Yeah, in our next segment.
Let's just say if you came to this episode for the cheesesteaks, fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
If you came here for the cheesesteaks, we're not gonna let you down. We have quite a bit to say about the cheesesteaks because they were important to us going into this trip.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that was one of the things I was looking forward to most, because you hear about Philly cheesesteaks. It's like, yeah, you gotta try a Philly cheesesteak. I kind of expected it to be like life altering.
And if any of you came here to hear about specifically Pat and Gino's cheesesteaks, those are 2 different establishments, by the way. Well, we have a lot to say about that too, so hang tight.
We do. But for the story at hand, the cheesesteaks experience, it was interesting. Our first day there, we got cheesesteaks as our first meal, right?
Yeah. Can we say where we went? Jim's South Street. It's called Jim's South Street.
Jim's South Street.
And
that's
it's
right.
Located on 400 South Street in Philadelphia. Great look.
Yeah, it kind of had like a little Brooklyn feel to it.
Oh, from the outside and the inside, you feel like you've really walked into a unique place that you're not going to find back home.
Yeah, I recommend it. Check it out. It's a decent place for a cheesesteak.
If you're intimidated going up to order your cheesesteak, if you're an intimidated orderer to begin with, you're not going to do well here. They have no patience for you when you're ordering cheesesteaks in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
There's a lingo you have to abide by, and it's fast.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal. I would actually just recommend hiring a local, paying them to go in and order for you.
Yeah.
I know I was nervous.
But no, they were nice.
They were. There's but there's lingo.
There is. You want to tell us what the lingo is?
Yeah, you order the cheesesteak, and then they say, "Wit," W-I-T, wit, which means, do you want cheese whiz,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would you say it if you were going to go to order right now? How would you say it?
I'll do one wit.
And I'm going to give you a cheesesteak with cheese whiz.
Correct.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But neither of us liked the cheese whiz.
Yeah, I'd rather just have provolone.
Well, we saw that there was really good looking provolone there.
Yeah.
But
I want the classic feel.
We wanted what I think I speak for both of us. We wanted what the locals eat. What do people come here for?
For sure, yeah.
And then how funny that we would meet a local who had been there since the his family.
Yeah, his family's been in the area since the 1600s. And I think we'll touch up on that story a little bit more in highs and lows.
Perfect.
I did want to get into just real quick to touch up and wrap up food culture discussion. I do want to recommend Tom's Dim Sum in Chinatown. There's a location, a really famous landmark in the area called Reading, or maybe Reading Terminal Market. And we're going to talk about that. But yeah, place there that's really great for Chinese food.
Yes.
It's called Tom's Dim Sum.
Yes.
It's in Chinatown, right next to Reading Terminal Market, which, by the way, it really just doesn't seem like you could go wrong with a meal in Chinatown. Some of the best meals in Philadelphia are going to come from Chinatown. So I highly recommend going there for lunch, going there for dinner. You're not going to go wrong with Chinatown. You
had vegetarian options. You had a good assortment of different foods.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed with Chinatown.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. But that does lead us to our third and final defining word, which I think we both kind of agreed was history. And I kind of jumped the gun a little bit there. We did kind of talk about it in reference to the old city.
No worries.
When it's the nation's first capital, it kind of goes without saying that there's going to be a lot of history there. There are some instances where you go to a few of the parks and there's actually Revolutionary War soldiers buried in some of these parks. And I thought that was a really cool, eye-opening experience walking in Philadelphia, because the closest we get to even like the 1800s here in Akron is like a Catholic church. And I think it was built in like 1912. So here in America, like in general, you don't get a lot of opportunity to come across places that were built in the 1600s and had a lot of cultural significance in the 1700s. So coming to Philadelphia and seeing that was really, really cool. Outside of seeing Ben Franklin's house or seeing Independence Hall or seeing those kind of things, there's just so much going on here in the city when it comes to history. That's really cool. One of the coolest buildings in the city, City Hall, is topped with a 30-foot statue of William Penn, who was the governor of Pennsylvania in the 1600s. So they built a statue after him, and they topped City Hall with him, and it's really cool. And I know you are
a huge fan of this statue atop. It's already a very tall building, and then this giant 39-foot statue sitting what I think is quite precariously on top of what looks to be the very tip top. It just looks like it's going to fall and kill someone.
Yeah, you can check out our video. You can see it.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
You know, you're talking about history, and I think anytime I get to chat with someone who has just gone over to Europe for the first time in their life, and they come back, and I always want to listen right off the bat. What are the first things they tell you? Because it's generally going to be what stuck with them the most. What was that? What's the first thing out of your mouth when I ask you about Italy or France or Germany or your time in Slovenia or wherever? And boy, is it not always, oh my goodness, the history.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I think it's gonna ring true with a lot of Americans because it's just something we don't have much of. So when you go to Philadelphia and you see all these historical things that are hundreds of years old. It's exciting.
It really is. Yeah.
It gives you a little bit of that feel like, oh wait, we have this too.
Yeah.
I didn't even really realize here in the States we had history.
It's
I guess
different.
we do.
Yeah. We don't have that here in Akron and Cleveland.
No, we don't. So I'm proud of all the historical items that are staying there. And I think one thing that really struck me was, do you remember seeing statues that like told the whole story? It wasn't just like, oh, there's some person I don't recognize. And in one point, I hope we could pinpoint this exactly, but it was when you're walking from the old town to the Delaware Harbor riverfront, there was like a whole group of people. It was a statue, and the statue displayed this so well. A whole group of people like arriving to America.
Yeah.
Some people like climbing up. It was there were people digging. There were people looked famished. Do you remember the statue?
No, I don't.
Huh.
Wait. Okay, no, I do remember.
Something.
Yeah. There's a flag of like Ireland, right?
Next to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I recall. And there's a dog park.
And there was totally a dog park.
Yeah.
I should have just opened with that.
Oh yeah, I would have recalled it.
Will has 2 dogs, so he's gonna catch his mind.
Yeah. I do remember that. There are situations like that throughout the city where there are little landmarks to some historical events or historical moments. Yeah, and it's really cool. It is cool to see.
I'm a guy who's not super into history. I was impressed. I loved it. You're going to like it if you go.
Yeah, and I think that kind of wraps up our Defining Words segment. The next segment that we have are highs and lows.
I love highs and lows. This was like growing up.
Yeah.
My dad would get home from work. We'd be around the dinner table, and his question was always, all right, everyone go around and say their high and low of the day. And I think that's healthy to do with trips. It's okay to talk about the low points, but we love talking about the high points too.
All right, let's get into it.
Sometimes things are good, sometimes they're bad too. It's highs, lows coming to you.
Let's kick it off with the high.
You want to kick it off with a high?
I do.
All right, dude. Go ahead.
Parks.
Okay.
There were so many fun parks.
There was. Do you have a favorite?
Yeah.
Is it Rittenhouse?
Absolutely.
Oh, man. Yeah. I like Rittenhouse too. I did.
It was cozy. I felt safe, yet I could people watch. And there was a Barnes and Nobles where we could go to the toilet.
Which was a big deal during COVID. Let me tell you, everything's closed down. Could not find a bathroom.
Right.
You know what was really cool about Rittenhouse was it was the only square that had like a farmer's market on the weekend. Had like a local winery open up shop. You had local farmers came and sold their produce. You had some people selling T-shirts, candles, you name it.
You walk by a park and you see a little bit of everything. You see people, you see groups with a picnic blanket down. You see the dad throwing the frisbee with his kid. You see the group who's trying to learn a foreign language and the reading group, and then the ladies who are knitting together on the park bench, and kind of everything in between. And I wish here in our beautiful home city of Akron, we had more of that park culture. There's always someone who kind of set up live music. Maybe, I remember a girl playing her cello the one day. She was brilliant.
But I will say,
go ahead.
It is like one of the more wealthy areas of the city. So in terms of places to stay, it's a little bit more high end.
Sure.
And the restaurants there are a little bit more high end too. So if you're looking for like a real nice night out, nice restaurant to go to, you might want to check out the restaurants near Rittenhouse.
I totally agree with that. And to add to that, grab some takeout lunch and take it to the park and eat it there.
I agree with you. And that was a high for sure.
I would love to give another high.
Okay. 2 highs, man.
I know. I just want to talk about the Rocky statue.
Okay.
And just that the Philadelphia Museum of Art, Modern Museum.
No, you got it. Philadelphia Museum of Art.
Philadelphia Museum of Art. It's from, is it the end of the Rocky movie?
Yes.
Yeah. You can run up the steps just like Rocky. It's true. Just like in the movie. And then right by those steps, there is a Rocky statue, which you can get your picture with.
Mm-hmm.
It's free. It's just open all times of day. There might be a little line of people that you have to wait through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like I wanted to watch Rocky after getting to run up those steps.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's a cool experience.
Mm.
One of my highs was actually the Segway tour that we did.
Oh.
Yeah, and okay, so if you've never been on a Segway tour, you might be thinking the same thing that I thought when Brian asked me if I wanted to go on a Segway tour, which was like, I do not want to go on a Segway tour.
Right.
The first thing I think of a Segway tour is like Paul Blart
Yes.
and like some like lame, just like a lame time in general. But let me tell you, Segways were really fun, man.
So much more fun than they look.
Yeah, they really are. Yeah. So this Segway tour, it took us all throughout the city.
Yeah.
We got to go down to the Schuylkill River. We went up to the Philadelphia Museum of Art. We drove down Ben Franklin Parkway. We went through the old city. We saw everything all in about 2 hours on these Segways, which were so fun to drive. The only downside I would say was it worked a part of a muscle in my foot that I didn't know existed.
Right.
This muscle that's like on the bottom of your foot,
right,
like in the middle.
Right in the arch.
Yeah, in the arch was the word I was looking for.
Okay.
And you feel it within like 5 minutes of riding the Segway.
Yeah.
But you quickly get used to it. Well, I don't know about quickly. You get used to it eventually.
Eventually. You bear it.
Yeah. But it was just a really fun time. And I really do recommend checking out one of the Segway tours of the city. It's a great way to spend 2 hours. It's a great way to learn more about the city and just have a really good time doing so.
Great point. The reason I really push you for it is because I've seen this trend with my clients where when they get to a new city, I always call day one, that arrival day, I just call it arrival day.
Yeah.
I say, don't have high expectations for yourself. You've just gotten off a flight. You just had to do the sometimes treacherous transfer from the airport to the hotel.
Can be rough.
Who knows how difficult the check-in process can be? As I know you and I have had our issues with hotel check-ins in the past. Sometimes it's not as swift and quick as you hope. You've unpacked. You're a little bit overwhelmed at just, oh my gosh, a whole big city and lots to do. Where do I even start? That's why I say, don't have high expectations for yourself on day one. You don't even have to really plan anything. You can kind of just let see where that day takes you. Then I always say on day number 2, which I refer to as your first full day in a city, do the very touristy panoramic city tour.
I agree.
There's nothing wrong with it.
It really
because even if you look like the dude on the Segway tour, one of 8 people slowly, gliding through the city, it is just you'll get over the embarrassment pretty quick. Once
you will,
you get
when
a
you're
few
having
people,
so much fun.
A few people will stare at you. Maybe you'll even see someone get a cell phone pic of your group, but most people are smiling and they're actually happy to see you on Segways. I think it's fun.
It's a blast. I couldn't recommend it.
You're not a threatening crowd, that's for sure, on a Segway. And then afterwards, it's like, hey, Will, remember we passed those 2 places? Let's go back and check those out. That was so cool.
You get a good lay of the land when you do it. Because you're going to cover a lot of ground really quickly. You get a good feel of the city.
The Segway tour, the first 15 or 20 minutes is spent doing safety of the Segway and the warning and the whole spiel, and making sure that you're comfortable with it. And they do a good job to really make sure you're comfortable with it. And then you do get a whisper set. For those of you who don't know, a whisper set is when your tour guide will have a little microphone clipped to his or her, collar, and then everyone else has headsets where you can hear what the guide's saying.
Yeah. So if you have any like spare wired headphones that you have on hand, I'd recommend bringing them to the tour, because we missed out on a few things that our tour guide was saying just because the headphones fell out of our ear, because they're cheap headphones.
Yeah.
But
should we continue with highs?
Do we have any more highs?
Well, two more.
Two more? Oh, okay.
But
man.
we kind
Let's
of these can go pretty quickly. The one was Reading Terminal Market.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which
This
we
is
kind of
that-
mentioned.
We did. This is that perfect rainy day spot.
Ooh, yeah.
It's near Chinatown, as I recall.
Yeah, it's under a bridge. It's kind of
I'm not even
hard to
sure
find.
how I would. It kind of reminded me of the West Side Market in Cleveland without the
It-
tallest buildings, but
It
we should
really
give it.
is.
We should give a better example. Almost like, I don't know. Let me just try to explain this the best I can. So with Reading Terminal Market, it is an indoor marketplace near Chinatown with tons of food vendors, all with fun, brightly colored signs. And every vendor is selling something unique to their stand. So it is the most, if you're into photos and whatnot, it's the most photogenic place, and it's great for vlogs and videos. And you could take a group of 20 or 30 people in there, and every person could get the food they want or the drink, or I don't know, from all sorts of different countries and all types of food. So Reading Terminal Market, definitely have to do it. And then our last high was JFK Square with the love sign.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about JFK Square.
We didn't want to go. We were like, no,
really
that seems
didn't.
pretty lame.
Yeah, it was kind of last minute. I think we were like 3 hours away from our flight, something like that. And we were like, well, we're gonna walk right by it. Let's check it out. And it's really cool. It's situated right next to City Hall, so you get a view of this really cool building. You see the love sign. If you don't know what the love sign is, it's a piece of art. It literally just says love. But
The L and the O are on top, and the V and the E are below it, and it's in bright, big red letters. You have to get the picture. Totally photo worthy.
the original plan was to have the love sign do a tour throughout the United States, and it started in Philadelphia, and the city of Philadelphia just loved it so much that it just has stayed there since. And what's really cool about the plaza, it kind of captures really what the city is all about. This just so many different cultures hanging out, having a good time, chilling at this park.
Would you say it defined the city of brotherly love?
It really did. And do we want to talk about that now, or do we want to?
Well, let's table it.
You want to table it? Okay,
Let's talk about our lows.
All right, dude.
The
Yeah.
lows. Really just one.
There really was only one instance of having a low in the trip, but I got to say it is quite the experience for me. I've never had this kind of situation happen to me.
Right.
In any restaurant whatsoever, let alone a travel location. So this does involve cheesesteaks. It does involve probably one of the most famous locations in Philadelphia for cheesecakes. When you go to Philadelphia, there's two places that's mentioned. There's Gino's and there's Pat's. Yeah, Pat and Gino's. And they're situated in, I believe, South Philly, which is a little bit different than the city center of Philadelphia.
Different vibe.
Different vibe for sure.
More like a neighborhood.
Yeah. It's more of a neighborhood. If you recall the end of Rocky, or when Rocky goes on his run and he's on his way to the Philadelphia Museum of Art to do his famous climbing of the stairs, there's a bunch of kids that start following him. In that specific situation, he is in South Philly, where Gino's and Pat's is located. Just to give you a little bit of a vibe, if you can recall the movie. But
1976 American sports drama starring Sylvester Stallone.
I should say that Gino's and Pat's are located right across from one another. They're on these corners.
They face each other.
And they have, I guess, a historic rivalry. They've been around so long that they've been declared cultural landmarks. So no matter what happens, these buildings will always stand, according to the city of Philadelphia.
Wow.
But on our ride there, our Uber driver, his family had been in the city of Philadelphia since the 1600s. So to call him a local Philadelphian would give him a disservice. Yeah. But the one thing that we learned from him was that Pat and Gino's was a straight up tourist trap. And kind of a mediocre sandwich at best. And he recommended to check out a place called Cleaver's for a really good cheesesteak. We get our Uber driver. He's taking us to this location. He's telling us all about how Geno's is not a very good place to eat. And all the while, Brian and I, our excitement levels are slowly dwindling.
Yeah.
And like we mentioned before, we did go during COVID.
Yeah.
We got in line. It's an outdoor restaurant. It's not a drive-in. There's no indoor seating. It's an over-the-counter takeout place. You go up to the cashier. You give them your order.
Also,
they give you
a very intimidating ordering system.
So we get in line to make our order, and we're all socially distanced. We're all wearing our masks.
Right.
And we finally get up to the cash register to place our order with the cashier, and the cook is like going on a tirade about something, and he's using every colorful word under the sun that you can think of. And we're both kind of thinking, like, why is he so mad?
Who's he talking about?
And at first we thought it was his takeout order.
Sure.
Because he was talking about something about the takeout order.
Yeah, we didn't understand.
And then he looked at the cashier and he said, F those two dudes. They can wait. Why are any of you talking to everyone in the line? There's probably about 15 to 20 of us in line. Why are any of you here? We're in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
Don't order food at my place.
Right.
Go to Pat's. They have better sandwiches anyway. And
Will and I are kind of just like speechless, jaw dropped, like.
We were a little taken aback, but we placed our order a little shell shocked.
I guess we'll still eat here. We're still in line.
All that aside, the sandwich itself was, I think, $11.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And it's probably maybe an 8-inch or 10-inch.
Soft drinks for $4 a piece. I remember that.
Yeah, they were $4 a piece.
We split
the sandwich.
Steak.
Yeah, we split the sandwich. So we got our sandwich. I guess we should have ordered ahead, but we didn't really know about it.
Right.
Just thought it would be a quick grab and go type of thing. But apparently, the cook didn't really agree that we should do that.
We've never been so chastised for trying to give a company business.
Yeah. And I mean, it left a bad taste in our mouth. I fully support, wearing masks, socially distancing. I think COVID should be taken, seriously, but it was just odd, man, to be treated like that.
So we weren't treated well, and then we sit down and we bite into this cheesesteak. I'm expecting this to be the greatest cheesesteak of my life.
Yeah, it's not even seasoned. It's literally just chopped up beef.
I think we gave it like a 3 out of 10.
I think I don't know, man. I'd give it a 2 out of 10.
Well, it's not to say that all tourist traps are bad. If you come to our amazing city of Akron, Ohio, and you look at places to eat, the number one place is going to be Swenson's. It's our staple. And I would say, it's absolutely a tourist place. I used to work there, and half the license plates were out-of-towners who came in they were visiting family in Northeast Ohio, and they had to make their Swenson's run. It's fantastic. I love the food. Yeah, so we're not saying, I am actually, when I heard from our Uber driver that Pat and Geno's was a tourist trap, my red flag hadn't gone up just yet. I thought, okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Well, I'm okay with tourist traps. You can go to a tourist trap in New York, and it's still good food. And you can have a blast.
I don't think they need to necessarily be a negative term, but this particular one, we weren't fans. So that was our low.
That was.
Okay, next we have our tips from the travel agents.
Tips from the travel agents.
We had to be creative during COVID due to eating outside. But I think some of our cool tips came from having to be creative. Yeah. One of them in particular was we found a rooftop bar called The Assembly. It was on the Ben Franklin
Parkway.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Just this absolutely fabulous rooftop bar. The tip comes in the form of go to a rooftop bar, but call in advance, and call for 2 reasons. Get a reservation if you need it, because we found that a lot of rooftop bars are just totally booked. And then 2, ask about dress code. we weren't prepared to dress up on this little weekend getaway. I had my shorts and my little Akron t-shirts with me. My
Yeah, we didn't have any
Crocs.
dress pants or dress shoes.
No. And we found some of these. We're so glad that we called the rooftop restaurants first before going, because we learned, oh gosh, we would have need to dress the part to show up.
Mm-hmm.
So that was tip number 1. Check out a rooftop bar. We recommend the Assembly.
It's a cool
Not
place.
a huge dinner menu, but they did have nice apps and a great selection of drinks.
It's a great place to nightcap.
And it's just pull out a smartphone and just aim your photo anywhere into the city, and you're going to get a fabulous picture.
Absolutely.
Our next tip had to do with that. It's that awkward moment when you have to check out of your hotel or Airbnb or boutique hotel at, I don't know, 11 a.m. or noon, but your flight is in the evening.
Oh, yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you do with your bags?
Yeah. And we found specifically in Philadelphia, I don't know if they're countrywide, but we found an app or a website service called Vertoe, Vertoe. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where a local business will offer their lockers up to anyone to come off and drop off suitcase, luggage, whatever it is that they have at a fee, and they'll just watch over it, and you can go and enjoy your day. So you go on the website, you find a local restaurant nearby or a local shop. They have some safes. You go to the local place, and you tell them you're a Vertoe buyer. They'll take your luggage. They'll tag it and everything, so it's completely safe, and then they throw it into a safe place, and they just watch over it for you for however long you need. Obviously,
Will and I are both trusting people, but we're also realistic. So it's like my dad's rule: don't tempt people unnecessarily. So I think keep your electronics on you whenever you're traveling. There's no reason to leave your passports behind in the safes or lockers, or in our case, it was basically a small grocery store that was willing to hang on to our bags. Yeah. I felt I totally trusted them it was such a reasonable cost. I think it was under $20.
I think it was $12 for the two of us for the whole day.
2 bags. We didn't have to worry about our bags while we explored the city. And then it was time to go to the airport, picked up the sacks, ran out to PHL, Philadelphia International Airport. Tip 3 is all about locations for where you're going to stay.
Oh, yeah.
We were a little, I wouldn't say off the beaten path. We were just kind of far from everything we wanted to do.
Yeah. We were, I think, a mile away from City Hall, but it didn't feel like it. I mean, it really didn't. I recommend maybe one of the hotels off of the Delaware Riverfront. Yeah. There's a Holiday Inn that's pretty close by if you're looking for a cheaper option. Right. And then there's a really nice Hilton that's right off the water. If you're looking for a little bit more.
Hilton. Let's see if we can find the name of that Hilton, upscale. Delaware River. I mean, just the location.
Yeah. You look it up, and I think, one of the, not so much a tip, but I kind of wanted to talk about some of the things that you absolutely have to do when you go to Philadelphia. And one of the things for me, we mentioned Rittenhouse, we've mentioned Love Square, we've mentioned Independence Hall, but I really want to hammer home that you need to go and check out Benjamin Franklin Parkway. There's a ton of museums there. There's the Rodin Museum, and there's a replica of one of the David statues there, which is really cool. And then, there's the Philadelphia Museum of Art. But tucked away kind of behind it, just maybe, a 5-minute walk from the Philadelphia Museum of Art, is this row of rowing houses. Yeah. Right? It's called Boathouse Row.
Little country clubs, so to speak.
Yeah. They're rowing clubs. They're just the local rowing clubs to make up this row called Boathouse Row. And it's really cool in the daytime, but it's especially cool at night.
Have to go at night.
Everything's lit up. They have, depending on the season, if there's a holiday, if it's 4th of July, if it's Halloween, if it's Christmas, they will light up according to the holiday. And it's just a really cool place. I mean, there's a lot of maybe college age kids around the area that were hanging out, but at night. And during the day, there was a pop-up beer garden. It was a really cool place, and it really is about 5 minutes away from the Philadelphia Museum of Art. So I think you could realistically spend a whole day in the Benjamin Franklin Parkway just checking out museums, checking out local restaurants, checking out rooftop bars, checking out the Boathouse Row, and you'll really have a good day. It's a really cool place to check out.
If you're going to come away from this podcast with kind of that, wait, what are they said a lot. What are we supposed to do again? I think we can sum it up with spend time near the Delaware riverfront, spend time at Benjamin Franklin Avenue area / Boathouse Row, and spend time in the Old Town, seeing the museums and whatnot. That Hilton Museum, by the way, was the Hilton Philadelphia at Penn's Landing.
Nice.
And it is right in front of what was our favorite restaurant, Moshulu.
Hey.
Later we're going to talk, during our interview with the local, we're going to talk to John from Philadelphia. And I'm just kind of eager to see, he's really seems to be the restaurant expert of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I'm kind of eager. We'll just see if he happens to throw out Moshulu, our favorite restaurant, as one of his, or maybe he won't mention. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be really exciting to talk to him and just get his perspective from a local point of view. Do we have any more tips?
No, we're ready for standby items.
Okay, let's get into standby items.
It's safety and other info with standby items. Here we go.
The city of brotherly love. It's easy to talk about our experience at Pat and Gino's. Which one did we have the bad experience at?
Gino's.
Yeah. What they always say, when you have a bad experience at a corporation or an establishment, if you have a bad experience, you tell 10 people. If you have a good experience, you tell one person. Is that at 1 to 10 or something? Right? Yeah. So we are going to break that stereotype, and we have a lot of great things to say about the people in Philadelphia.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember there was one instance we walk out of our Airbnb, and I think all we did was hold the door for this woman, and I think maybe watched her stuff as she pulled around her car, and she was so grateful and so kind, and she offered to drive us anywhere within the city that we might need a ride to. Right. And it was just so gracious. We were really taken aback by how kind she was for us doing something really trivial, really.
And then just that, I think it was our last day with not enough time. We met John, who we're going to talk to later.
Yeah.
I mean, a local Philadelphian with 2 beautiful dogs. We'll have to ask him what those kind of dogs were. I think he was watching his parents' dogs, but just a guy who was so happy to give us all sorts of tips and thoughts and restaurant recommendations on the city. Our only problem was we met him too late.
Yeah, and we got back from our trip, and he emails us, and he created a Google Maps with all of his favorite places and his favorite restaurants for us to check out. I thought that was really cool.
I feel like it's a service we should have to pay for or something.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really cool.
Yeah.
I was also, I think about, we took an Uber ride a little bit north of the city.
Yeah.
To Fisherman's Row. I think that's the area. And we went to this German style restaurant. And on the way there, our Uber driver was this grandmotherly woman from was she
Dominican.
from the DR? Yeah, from the Dominican. And we got on the topic of Spanish and speaking Spanish.
Right.
And she very quickly offered to become friends with Brian and help Brian with his Spanish language by just calling him and talking to him.
It wasn't creepy at all. She was just genuinely wanted to help me learn Spanish if I wanted.
I've never seen anything like that.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, I was impressed. That was great. Hey, one quick thing, and this would be another standby item, would be I wish we would have done the Mutter Museum. And I say that because John, our buddy, told us we should. And then once I got home from Philadelphia, immediately upon returning, a travel agent friend of mine said, "Oh, you went to Philadelphia? Did you do the Mutter Museum?" Now, I will say in Mutter, Mutter, above the U is it called an Umlaut? It says German 2 dots. So I don't know. Is it Mutter Museum? Like Uber? Mutter Museum, maybe. But it's a museum full of dead bodies.
That doesn't sound very appealing. Unless you're Hannibal Lecter, I don't know.
Yeah,
What's so
maybe.
great about it?
I guess it's like how is the idea that how people have died, or that, hey, here's what we've done with human bodies. And I don't know, they I guess we'll have to ask John, but there's something about this soap woman,
Okay.
a woman in a bathtub who just laid there
Interesting.
with soap or something. And I'm sure
Huh.
I'm getting the story wrong, but John's going to back me up on this one when it's finally
Hey,
time.
I wouldn't be surprised if it really is really cool. I mean, one of the biggest
Yeah,
landmarks
maybe.
in Cleveland is a cemetery. So
Yeah.
what can you say?
That's a pretty cool cemetery, too.
It is a cool cemetery.
So, other standby items, make sure to try What Ice.
Yeah. Gotta check it out. What ice.
If you are a U.S. citizen, I believe it's your duty to go to Philadelphia to learn about our history. Of course, it's good for anyone, whether you're American or not.
Completely agree.
We both felt very safe in downtown. Remember, Will Smith is from here.
Yeah, he is.
One other thought, Philly it's an international airport with lots of flights to Europe as well as Mexico and the Caribbean. I don't think they have much service to Asia just because it's primarily a European hub, but it's an American Airlines hub. And yeah, that's true, because for flights to Asia, they're going to mostly fly out of LA or Phoenix.
Yeah, you're gonna have a long flight
Or
for flying from
Chicago.
Asia.
Yeah,
Go across the world.
exactly. And then my last standby item was, it seemed though the locals we talked to, as much as they love the city and their family was from Philadelphia, and they have so many great stories and tips and restaurant recommendations about Philadelphia, they all kind of mentioned this looming rising cost to live in the city, which has sort of been plaguing them. And that was sad.
That was, yeah. Yeah, there's so many conversations we had with our Uber drivers about the rising costs and how they couldn't afford to stay in the city any longer. There was one
yeah.
driver we had. He drove
Mhm.
something like an hour every day just to get to the city to do Uber drives.
Right.
And that was interesting to hear.
I think Uber, well, I guess we could go as far to say taxi services as well in cities where taxis are prevalent. But I think something like taking Uber is so important because it's an opportunity to meet a local person, learn about their story, the things they recommend, and fun stories they have about Philadelphia. I think that's always kind of a highlight for me. Maybe it's because I'm such an extrovert. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's really awesome especially when I go with you, to take an Uber drive, and you do such a great job of opening up the conversation and getting the conversation going.
Will and I are such a funny team. I always say I make great first impressions, but I don't really hang in there that long. Will needs someone to get his foot in the door, and then Will's like that steady train that can keep the conversation going and just ask. He's good.
As
Good questions.
extroverted as
Really
Brian
listen and yeah. Go ahead.
I am that introverted, so it's really a perfect
What
combination.
a combo. Well, I'm so excited to talk to John. We got to get this guy in the line. I'm eager for those listening to hear from this local Philadelphian and all he's going to share from an insider perspective.
Yeah.
Let's get him on the phone.
It's interview with the local.
Well, how exciting is this? We have John here, a local from Philadelphia. John is this guy that Will and I met at a macaroon shop of all places. And that's something I love about traveling with you, Will. I would never think to go to a macaroon shop.
I love food.
Right. And so that was great. And then I think we're there, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, you'll have to give us the official breed, but we see this guy with two really beautiful dogs. John, what kind of dogs are they?
They are Royal Standard Poodles. That is the official breed, but otherwise just poodles.
Right. So the poodles were our in, and next thing you know, we're getting the lowdown on Philadelphia. I think our only wish was that we could have met John sooner into our trip because it was our last day. We were headed to the airport.
Yeah, we had a few hours until our flight.
And this guy's giving us these tips about Philadelphia, where to eat, what to do, what to see, and my heart is sinking with every line he gives us because I'm like, oh, we're not going to get to do that. So, John, it's great to have you here, and welcome. And our first question for you is just, can you give us a little background about who you are and your time in Philadelphia and where you're from in Philadelphia?
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me. This is exciting. I love being able to share all this kind of information with anyone who is willing to hear me ramble about it. But I was born and raised in Connecticut, and then I moved from Connecticut to Pennsylvania when I was like 10. I'm 30 now, so I've pretty much spent most of my life here. My dad got a job at SAP, so they moved us out here, and I've lived in the western suburbs for basically that part of my life, like middle school, high school, and all that. It's an area called the Main Line of Philadelphia, but I never really lead with that because if you're not from here, no one really knows what you're talking about. It just kind of sounds mildly arrogant, so I just say like, "Oh, I'm from Philly." But
Yeah,
the Main Line actually, the name came from just the train. So back when the suburbs were coming up out of Philly, train line, formerly known as the R5, now it's the Paoli-Thorndale line. That was the main line of transportation between the western suburbs and Philly. So that's just the area.
okay. So how far away is that from like the city center, like Old Town and all that stuff?
With no traffic, you can make it down in maybe 25 minutes, but
Wow.
Interstate 76 is, I think it's been voted consistently the worst road to commute on in America
Wow.
for a while. So give yourself an hour, like plan for an hour, and the train is about 30 to 40 minutes. So it's convenient. It works. But yeah, that's just where I've been, and I've been living in Philly for about a decade now. Here and there, I've been to so many different places here. I've lived in Chinatown. I've lived towards the Art Museum area on the Parkway. I lived in South Philly, Old City, East Falls. I mean, really kind of hopped all over the place. And it was a combination of wanting to explore the city more, like have more of a central neighborhood for me, but also just I was living with roommates and they were either getting married or wanting to go to grad school and all this. So I thought, you know what? It's time to live alone.
Yeah.
I'm sick of moving. So it's just
Sounds like you're our guy. We got the right guy for Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I think we were so impressed with your food knowledge. Just in our conversation when we were together in Philadelphia, you kind of took us on a somewhat of a culinary tour, just with like Google Maps, and let giving us the lowdown. So the specific thing we need to hear from the local is the cheesesteaks.
Yeah,
I love talking about this.
What are your
I
top
really
three?
do.
So we're ready. Give us the lowdown. We're not going to give you anything that's going to sway you one way or the other, or try to get you to agree with us or our experience. We want to hear it from you.
Oh, I'm extremely adamant about my food preferences, so don't worry. I can't be swayed. But for those listeners that aren't familiar, I mean, everyone probably is, but a cheesesteak is just this lovely sandwich, usually on like a 10 to 12-inch roll, and they've got lovely like ribeye steak just right in the roll with cheese whiz or provolone, hot peppers, grilled onions. There's so many different ways you can do it, but it's just it's a steak in a sandwich, and it's amazing. And everyone is constantly arguing about what the best cheesesteak in Philly is. Some names you might hear a lot are Pat's and Geno's.
Oh yeah,
yes, they are right across from each other in South Philly. Really, they're both really good. I've always been partial to Pat's because we grew up going there. Like we would always go on the weekends or something with family. My parents actually, when they were dating, my dad lived here and my mom was in New York. And when they would come back to do like black tie parties in each city, if they were in Philly, they'd end up going to Pat's at like 2:30 in the morning in full black tie, attire, just scarfing down cheesesteaks. So it's a place for everyone, but I'm more partial to Pat's. Just I feel like the setup is better. It's not too greasy. It's not too runny, because you can definitely get like a wet cheesesteak and it's just not it's not what you want. But I feel like Geno's also, they're pretty good, but I've always been partial to Pat's. And then I'd also have to say, going further into South Philly, you can get like better stuff like on Oregon Avenue. You can go to Tony Luke's, and they've been there for a while. I just like them too. They're not messy. They're just very good, juicy, flavorful. Because you can put meat on a grill and just put it on a sandwich, but that doesn't necessarily make a cheesesteak. You can definitely have a bad cheesesteak. Sure. But there's another one, Jim's on South Street, which there are like, along with Pat's and Geno's, there are lines that like circle around the block. I mean, it is a crazy tourist attraction, but you'll also see people that have been eating there for 20 years. I mean, it's a local favorite as well as a tourist hotspot, just because of how much press it's gotten. I'm more partial though. Like if I'm on South Street, I would prefer to go to this little place called Ishkabibbles. It's this little window. I know it's a weird name.
I love it.
But it's this little window that it's not really a dine-in place. Like if you need to use the bathroom or something, you can kind of squeeze through like the very narrow alley-sized walkway to go back there. But it's basically just like a window on the street. You order and you take it away. And I like that better. Like if I'm on South Street and everyone's like, what do we do? I'll take them to Ishkabibbles instead of Jim's, because there's usually no wait at Ishkabibbles too. So
John, are you provolone or are you whiz?
Whiz. I love provolone, don't get me wrong. I just think the combination of all of the grease and the meat and the somewhat altered state of Cheese Whiz. I mean, it's barely any dairy these days. Like, okay, it's all just oil, salt, flavoring. I mean, there's dairy in there, but it's Cheese Whiz is one of those like Franken foods that you probably shouldn't be eating as much, but it's so good.
Well, so what reason not to love it? Yeah,
I'm just partial for that though. I love Cheese Whiz on anything.
So the next question I'm the most excited to hear, and that is what I call give us the local tour. You have friends coming from out of town. You got to show them a good time. You only have a weekend to do it. Where in Philadelphia are you going to take them? What are you going to avoid? What are you going to skip? And what are your go-to spots? What do you think is like the John from Philadelphia must-do list? What museums are you going to hit? What places are you going to eat? What other cool experiences do you have for them?
This is where I probably we could talk for 3 hours and I still won't have covered everything. But basically I would, if say people get in like on a Thursday night and we do a true 3-day weekend of like Friday through Sunday, what I'm going to do first is we're going to start in the morning very early at like a nice coffee or pastry shop, much like the place we were at. It's called EC. It's ICI. It's that macaroon shop that we all met at. I think they've got like 21 or 28 flavors of macaroons. They've got these amazing croissants, both chocolate and plain. They have like cruffins and ham and cheese croissants, and it's magical. So if you guys are throwing links up or whatever, I can send you their Instagram. But
this will be all in our travel guide.
Beautiful. You can go there for espresso coffee or like lavender lemonade. I mean, it's got something for everyone. So we're going to fill up on pastries there first. And then depending on
energy,
the weather,
nice.
Yeah. Carbs and caffeine. It's very important. But depending on the weather, we'll probably hit up like the Philly Art Museum. Just, I think art in general, no matter what city I'm in, I always go like gravitate towards art. So we'll go there. Fabulous artwork. You can climb the steps that Rocky climbed in the movie. There's also the Rocky statue, which is a huge photo op for a lot of people. There's often a line about the same size as the Jim's steak line. So make sure you're prepared to wait to take a photo.
It's a beautiful area though.
Oh yeah. The Parkway, like that, the art museum district, like area along with the Parkway, it was kind of laid out in this grand scheme, kind of on the same level as European cities when the city was planned. And if you look at it from like an aerial view, you'll truly see it'll kind of give you the same vibe. If you've been to the top of the Eiffel Tower and you're looking down at Paris, it's got some of the same vibe to it. So very, very pretty area just to be outside. There's like a garden in the back of the museum, a little restaurant there. So we're going to start somewhere like with art and just kind of go through it. Try not to spend all day there because you definitely can, but we'll try to move on. And then maybe if it's already midday, we'll hit up a place in the neighborhood of Fairmount, which is right next to the art museum. Going to get some brunch, probably go to Jack's Firehouse. It's an actual firehouse that was built in the 1800s, and they've got this really good, like, it's American food, but it's got some Southern recipes. Their mac and cheese is amazing. It's definitely a really good hangover cure, or just like a good lunch or dinner spot regardless. And then right after that, we can go right across the street to Eastern State Penitentiary, and go right there to see. It's an old jail, basically.
Yeah, I
It's
read
really,
about that.
It's really cool. I think I'm bad at this, but like I think it was Al Capone that stayed there. Like that's where he was imprisoned.
Okay.
You can go see his old jail cell. I think he had like some fancy furniture in there because he could demand that kind of thing,
Sure.
as opposed to sleeping on prison mattresses. But
Now,
it's a bit spooky.
okay. Is it like a short drive, a train ride, or can you walk there from like the Philadelphia Museum of Art?
Oh yeah, probably take like 5 to 7 minutes. Like it's right across basically from the museum. Like if you were to map it,
Okay.
it's a walk. Philly's a very walkable city. The only reason you'd ever really need to get in a taxi or an Uber is if the weather is horrendous or if you're like pressed for time. But other than that, very walkable city, and you'll see just tons of stuff to get sidetracked on while you're walking for the day. But yeah, very walkable. And then after that, we continue maybe south, I would say. We'd get on the subway right near City Hall, which again is a very short walk, or we could get on at the Fairmount station. It's just easy to do. We'd go south to the Philly Magic Gardens, which is this lovely, it's like there's like this empty lot that was transformed into this art installation. This guy, Isaiah Zager, I think is his last name. If you Google the Magic Gardens, you'll see it. But he is an artist. He put up all this stuff, like it's mosaics basically of glass, tile, bottles, old bike tires. It's garbage kind of like there's some elements of just garbage used in art, but it's a really great way to recycle, I think. And I've always loved it. I've been going there since high school. It never gets old. It's just this fascinating place where art is just part of the building. And I would strongly recommend that you do not miss that if you come here. It's just a really must see, unique spot. And then if we are still hungry, we'll hit up South Street for cheesesteaks, maybe go to Pat's, depending on how much time we have, and then continue on to maybe I would go back up north to Chinatown just to walk around. There's a lot of really cool shops, amazing dim sum restaurants, and some great sushi spots in there.
Oh yeah,
we
got first-hand experience of that.
It's so good. I had
So
sushi
good.
last night. It was amazing.
Oh, jealous.
And then if we're heading north, we could probably go back up to City Hall. City Hall, actually, a lot of people don't know this, but up at the very top, like where the statue is, there's an observation deck up there. You can go up there in that circular looking kind of dome and get a really awesome view of the city. I can send you guys a photo of
we did not
one
know
of the
that.
shots I have. Not a lot of people do, and it's not very like well advertised either. Like you don't see signs at City Hall saying, "Hey, come on in." It's a shame because not a lot of people know about it. It's only $5. You go up. The catch is though, only 4 people at a time. The elevator is probably the size of like 2 shopping carts, maybe. It's very tiny. You get very, very close with the people that you go up with, which it might be closed now because of COVID, but once you get up there, I think it's like 550 feet is how tall that building is. And you get a great panoramic and 360-degree view of Jersey, of the city, of like the northern and western suburbs. I mean, it's really, spectacular. You call ahead, you book advance, and then you pay when you get there. But that's another really simple, no frills, cheap, but amazing experience to do while you're here in the city. So that's like, without fail, I'll always bring people to that, whether it's winter, summer, spring. There's never a bad time to go.
This is my favorite part about this podcast, and really the vision I had was because right now I'm kicking myself thinking, man, there's so many cool things we should have done. And I loved our trip. I really had a great time. But my goal for this podcast, and I think I speak for Will as well, is for the single or the couple or the family who's in the airport or in the car on their way to Philadelphia, not really knowing what they're getting into or what they're going to experience. And they listen to this, and then they're not having to kick themselves afterwards going, oh, we should have done this and that. So I love this. Now, tell me, are we still on Thursday? Or are we on Friday?
No, this is Friday. Like, we're midday
Friday
at this point, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe like
I'm tracking
or something.
I'm tracking.
But another good thing, like if you're right in Center City at City Hall, another thing that a lot of people don't really do. I mean, it certainly is a booming business, but the bus tours, like there's all these bus companies here that have like the double-decker buses that, have the open top buses that you can do tours. They even will put plexiglass covers over them. So like if it's raining or if it's cold, you can still see everything really well. And everyone's like, oh, those are cheesy tours. I don't want to waste money. It's definitely not a waste of money. I mean, I've been here forever, it feels like, but I still will do those sometimes just for the hell of it, or if people are in town, because it gives you a really nice wide expanse. And there's like Big Bus, there's the Flash where you buy a card, you can just keep hopping on and off at the designated stops of history, attraction, whatever. So I would recommend that. And if you Google like best walking tours of Philly, there's also this guy, his name is Young Ben Franklin. If you just search that, he will actually bring you through like Old City. He's a teacher, but it's really cool. And he also has a album out. Like it's like a rap album, but it's about history. It's really cool.
That's amazing.
And he does a really good job of doing like a really enthusiastic and accurate walking tour in Philly, especially in the Old City area where most of America was organized and founded. So that is definitely a thing you must do. And then another thing that people miss a lot are like they do the big museums like the Art Museum and the Barnes Museum. But there's one museum, and I brought this up with you guys. It's called the Mutter Museum. And I think it was the College of Physicians that made this. And their tagline, it's basically a museum of medical oddities where you can go in and just to paint you a picture. You come in and there's like all these medical tools and stuff from like early on in medicine. And then there's really weird stuff like, when you go to like a poster or a picture shop and you pull out those massive drawers where all these like big prints are laying flat and you can take them out and buy them.
Yeah.
Well, there is a cabinet very similar to that at the Mutter Museum, except it is this collection of objects pulled from children's stomachs that they choked on or like otherwise picked up. There's pennies, safety pins, buttons, keys. Like it's just all this crap that was pulled out of stomachs of little kids and babies. And that is the oddity part. And then there's also like a plaster cast of real live like Siamese twins. There's a bunch of crap in like formaldehyde jars. Like there's some really creepy looking stuff in there, which is fascinating. And you also feel like you're in some like horror movie, but it's like less threatening. But I would definitely do it. And if you Google the soap lady at the Mutter Museum, I'll leave that to everyone to research on their own.
This museum, I think it's going to show up in my nightmares now, but I would love to see it.
You have to.
All right, so
there are so many things.
We do want to hear about some nightlife. What do you think as far as in the evening? Where are you going to take your guests?
So after maybe like stopping back at the apartment to just like refresh and maybe have like a nice little cocktail or some water. I don't know if anyone wants to hydrate, but we'll do that. And then we will probably go get dinner somewhere in Old City. or Center City, depending on what people want. I'm usually partial to bringing people to a restaurant called the Continental. It's their Midtown location. It's a restaurant owned by a guy named Steven Starr, and he has a bunch of he has a huge portfolio of restaurants here in Philly with all these unique concepts. And he's got a couple in Miami, Atlantic City. He's expanded, but this place is cool. It's got this old American flair to it, but they've got really fun dishes like this tower of really thin shredded shoestring fries with this spicy Szechuan mustard. Then they have what is it? French onion soup dumplings. They've got a really good fried calamari salad, and the bar has an inverted astroturf ceiling with all these little animal statues you can sit on. There's these hanging baskets from the ceiling that you can sit in to dine. It's a very eclectic, unique place to be around, both with food and with decor. Or we'll go to Budokan, which is also one of his restaurants, and we will have a bunch of amazing Asian-inspired food, dim sum, a bunch of dumplings and finger food that you can just pick at, noodles, anything for a bowl of noodles.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and also depending if people are in the mood for sushi, like we were talking about, there's one place. It's right next to EC, the macaroon place. It's called Tomo, and they have beautiful sushi and even better ramen. And they set up tables outdoors. You can sit out there, but it's so good. Their sushi is presented on these wooden slabs of tree cutouts, and it's just a very it's a very nice experience. And that is not a Steven Starr restaurant. I mean, I talk his restaurants up a lot, but there's so much more to Philly than the Steven Starr portfolio of restaurants. But I can recommend them for sure.
That sounds amazing. That's the one thing that we unfortunately didn't get a chance to really check out with Philly, were some of the great restaurants that are available, because when we went during COVID, so many of them were closed down.
Yeah, I mean, there's more. There's one called Zahav. I think either it was James Beard. Yeah, I mean, good luck if you can get a reservation. I think they've been booked forever.
Wow.
But I think
so.
It
Book
was
in advance.
Months. I'm talking months in advance. I mean, it's no joke with that. So I think they were named the best restaurant in not the country, or maybe it was. They just got a really big accolade. I'm trying to remember what it was,
Wow.
but I mean, it is really good. Really, really good food. Great experience. The only way, in my opinion, to dine there is to get the chef's tasting menu, where they bring out 80 plates of food, and you just get to really experience the entire menu. And that's kind of my philosophy when it comes to dining as well. But Israeli food, one of my top 3 cuisines. So
that's amazing.
That's a great experience. Yeah. And then
go
ahead.
No, go ahead, John.
After that, for nightlife wise, if people are not in a food coma, we will go out and drink and just get crazy. If the weather is really nice, we'll go ahead and go to the neighborhood, where there's a bunch of fun bars, but one of them, it's changed hands a couple times, but now it's called Taboo, Tabu. And they're the only gay bar as of now that has an open air, true roof deck and outdoor lounge. It's this multi-story complex with a pub, dance floors, crazy drag shows, and lasers and foam sometimes on the dance floor. It's pretty nuts. But if you don't want to do all that,
sounds like a good time.
Oh yeah, it's nuts. It's completely nuts. And if you're not looking to get that crazy though, you can just go up on the roof deck and hang out, listen to music, look at the lovely skyline. There's some fun options. But yeah, we're gonna go out and drink and have some fun, and just stay out. Yeah.
So we're running a little tight on time. Could you give us 2 more places that you would take someone, a guest, on a trip to Philadelphia?
It's tough. I would probably say in history wise, you'd have to hit up the Constitution Center, Independence Hall, where everything kind of took place. Franklin Institute has amazing science exhibits that are really fun. You can get lost there all day. The Jewish American History Museum. There's the African American History Museum. Betsy Ross House. That actually is right across the street from where where we met, like right across. So get some history on flag and colonial days.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic.
I'd also have to say, I want to squeeze this thing in real quick. There's a place called Art in the Age. It's a shop where you can buy all this like artisan cocktail stuff. Like it's really good.
Ooh.
You can buy liquor there, but they also do private cocktail classes. So you can really learn from professionals how to like craft true amazing cocktails using ingredients that you've probably never heard of. It's really, it's quite the experience.
That's you really are like cool. The Philadelphia food and drink cuisine master. I'm loving it.
Yeah, so. You should start your own magazine.
I only covered like 20% of what I wanted to talk about.
There you go. All right, John, we need some final words of caution and or wisdom for anyone looking to make the trip to Philadelphia.
Yeah, so Philly is generally a pretty safe place. I mean, like any big city, there's going to be areas that you shouldn't be in, but as a tourist, you're not really going to be, there's no reason for you to go out there anyway. But unlike a lot of cities overseas, you're not going to run into a lot of people trying to like scam you or like put a bracelet on your arm and say, oh, it's free. And then like, you know, pressure you to pay them or they're going to start screaming or none of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, Philly's a pretty harmless city, so you're not going to run into a lot of that. I would just say use common sense. But in the areas like Chinatown near the convention center, bus terminal, all that, you're going to see a lot of people maybe trying to run something over on someone, but it's really not. It's totally harmless. So you don't have to worry. If it's just you traveling alone, you don't have to like clutch your backpack or like wear it backwards or zip everything up. It's generally a safe place, and especially for families too. I mean, it's just such a wide open city of great outdoor stuff, and then all the attractions. So you're not going to run into a lot of nonsense, in my opinion, here.
Hey, that's amazing. Once again, thank you so much for sitting down and having a conversation with us on Philadelphia. Every time we talk with you, we learn something more about the city. And you were just a great person to talk to about the city. We hear your love for the city, and it's just been so insightful to
makes me want to go back.
Yeah, even before we wanted to go back, but now I'm just like, maybe we'd put it back up to the top of the list so we go back.
Please come by. We'll do a proper day or weekend of everything. I mean, it's what I live to do is just be out and about. And if there's a part 2 episode of Philly, I will definitely join for that.
When we come back, maybe we'll have you in the videos.
I'd love it.
So thank you. We appreciate it. This is the end of our show. Thanks for tuning in. Everything we talked about, you can find in our travel guide. We'll have it attached to the podcast on YouTube, Instagram. You can find it.
We're the travel agents. That's the end of our show. Make sure to comment and subscribe.